time for an anti-haul. Hey y'all, it's Heather, and I'm so excited because today we're going to be talking about all the new makeup launches that I have not purchased. I'm going to tell you what products I'm using instead, why I didn't purchase these things. Maybe I can kind of de-influence you if you're trying not to buy everything, because listen, I love to try new makeup. I buy a ton of makeup. I do weekly hauls here on my channel, but we can't try everything. Let's start off by talking about this beauty balm from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This launched a few months ago, and I feel like I could not open up social media without seeing this product. It was going to be like this fresh, balmy skin tint for summer. Now, ABH says this is not a foundation. It is a skincare skin tint all-in-one. It's a sheer coverage, hydrating type of stick product. And the more I looked at it and the more hype it was getting, I'm just looking at the ingredients and I'm like, do I really need this? Do I need something so sheer and so oily in a stick format? Because I have products that will give me kind of what ABH is giving me, but in a format that I already know that I like. So ABH says this has sheer to light coverage, natural looking skin with a healthy glow, weightless formula, silky texture, easy to blend, brighten, bronze, all of that. I thought about my Say Super Glowy Gel Foundation. Now this foundation has hyaluronic acid, it has glycerin, it has those hydrating ingredients, and it's very, very glowy. Now this one does claim to be a medium coverage. I would say it's more light coverage, and you can definitely build it to a medium, but when I wear this, I do like to wear it as a light coverage, and the ABH does say that it's sheer to light coverage. It's not saying it's a foundation, but if I'm going for that type of product, I thought about my Say, so I'm like, you know, I don't really need this. And I also shopped my stash and found my Rituel DeDe 3-drop weightless serum foundation. This is another one that is a foundation and it is a medium coverage, but I can use less and I can get that light, almost sheer coverage that I feel like I would be buying the ABH for. This also has jojoba oil and marula oil, and it is an oily type foundation. So even though I don't own the ABH, I think this one may be even closer to what that one is promising. And the Rituel DeDe actually lasts really well on me. I'm going to swatch the Rituel DeDe on my hand, and I'm going to swatch the Say for you, because the other thing about these is they have olive undertones. So this is the Rituel DeDe. It has that olive undertone that I need, and a lot of brands just don't have. So let me show you the Say too. So you can see these are a little bit light right now, but they work perfectly once I get them on the face, blend them out. They are a little sheer. I can throw on a bronzer and I'm good to go, and I still have those skin loving ingredients in a tinted product. The other release I'm skipping is the Fenty Beauty Traced Out Lip Liner. Now listen, these were in my Sephora cart. I was planning to purchase these, and then I was going to Ulta and I'm like, let me just see if they have them in store. My Ulta app said they have them in store, but you know, you can't always trust that. So I love the undertones. I had the shades picked out. I went into the store, I saw the display, I swatched them, and they were so creamy on the swatch, to the point where I was like, no, I know this is not gonna be for me. It's too much. And I know a creamy lip liner sounds great, but I like more of like a pencil form. I really like MAC lip liners. Unearthly Cosmetics make great lip liners. One Size, ABH. I love those, and they're a little more firm. And if I want a creamy lip liner, I really like ColourPop lip liners. So I just felt like this is just gonna smudge. It says they're not. It says they're not supposed to smudge, but I didn't feel like I could get the precision that I wanted. I decided to skip on these, and I'm actually using a lip liner that I recently bought from About Face, and I'm enjoying these. They're creamy. So if you want a creamy lip liner, I am liking these, but they're not as soft and just, I'm trying to think of a word other than creamy, but they just feel more like a lipstick formula than a lip liner formula with the Fenty Scorpio Rising. And I think About Face has some really pretty lip liners with beautiful undertones too. So if you are like me, maybe you swatch the Fenty and you're like, ugh, I want something like this, but not quite this, check out these from About Face. This right here is the shade Smoking Room, I believe. And these are matte lip liners too. They're really nice. So I'm enjoying these. Let's talk about Natasha Denona Mini Rose Eyeshadow Palette. I love Natasha Denona. If you know me, if you watch my videos, you know I usually buy all of her releases. Like, I can't help myself. I think she has phenomenal eyeshadow quality. I think her formulas are great. I'm usually interested in her color stories. It's just a very consistent brand for me, and I love the brand. I even have an affiliate code with the brand. It's Heather if you ever want to shop their site. But when I saw this palette, I was just, no. I'm like, that's so beautiful, but I literally don't need that. Do I need any of it? No, but also yes. But I'm like, if I can say no, I say no, because I test and try a ton of new makeup. I'm constantly looking at new releases. I'm constantly wanting to see like what is out there, what formulas are on the market, what's the next best thing. And this one just didn't appeal to me. So I try to take that and say no when I can. I do have several pinky type palettes from Natasha Denona. I have this one right here that is the Mini Crush palette, which I love this one. I think it's gorgeous. And I also have the Mini Love palette. Now these two are both way more on the pink side than the Mini Rose. So I definitely am not saying they're the same, anything like that. But if I'm looking at my mini palettes, I don't feel like the Mini Rose is gonna fill a gap in my collection. When I was also thinking about this palette, I pulled my Mini Sigma Cor de Rosa palette. This one is so gorgeous, and it does have more shades. It's not the same, it's not just the 5 shades, but I do have enough similar shades in here. Like this shade here, Cor de Rosa, the dark brown here, I have that. I have the kind of like pinky, shimmery, sparkly shade, a mid-tone shade. Like, I feel like I could get similar looks with this palette. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm good. I should keep my little $27, even though I think it's beautiful. And I can definitely see why everybody wants to buy this palette. I even considered it because I'm like, Heather, you always buy her stuff. Like, maybe you just need this. But I told myself no, and I have refrained. Tarte released their Tartelette To Go Amazonian Clay palette, a mini palette that is so cute, and I get it. It's neutral. It looks like it will be perfect for someone, but not for me. And what I did instead is bought the big palette. I bought the big palette because, you know, like, I like the mini. It's cute. You just saw I have some Natasha Denona minis, and I feel like I have some Natasha Denona minis with this same color story, but there's a mini palette and then there's a bigger palette. And you know, I'm a more is more type of person. So I decided to buy this palette, and I have a whole video on this. I'm swatching it. I'm doing 2 eye looks. I'm giving you some comparisons, my thoughts, a review, everything like that. But I am so happy with my purchase of this palette. And I feel like if I bought the mini palette, I would just be thinking like, I should still buy this. And then I would end up with 2 palettes. Where with the mini palette here from Tarte, I don't feel like it's gonna fill a gap in my collection, because if I want a smaller palette for travel, I do feel like I have those colors from other brands in mini palettes. And if I love those shades, I feel like I have them in here. Let's talk about the Dior foundation stick that dropped kind of just out of nowhere. And I'm gonna read you off of the Sephora site because I don't have the product here in front of me to reference. This is the Forever Skin Perfect 24-hour multi-use foundation stick from Dior. And I love Dior complexion products. This foundation claims to have a 24-hour wear, a blurred natural finish, buildable coverage. So they don't have all the shades that they have in their other foundations. This one from Dior. Like, I love my shade for WO, for Warm Olive, and it doesn't come in this one from Dior. Now, maybe they will expand the shades later on, but I actually have a couple of stick foundations that I'm really loving. The first one that I'm loving is the Ilia Skin Rewind Complexion Stick, and they have so many undertones that I love. This is the shade 260. So this is an olive undertone. I do have a video like showing me using all these Ilia sticks. I have one that I use for bronzer that's a bronzer color. I have one that I use for a concealer color. I have a lighter shade than this. Like, I really like this, and it's a medium coverage, natural finish, blurring kind of skin, and like, it's so good. I'm really, really enjoying that one. And then I also have my Fenty stick. So this is the shade 14. This is the Ease Drop Blur Smooth Stick. This one is also a medium coverage, and both of these are not as expensive as the Dior. Even though I love Dior products, I just feel like I don't need this one. Now in the future, if they expand the shades and I know I can get my perfect shade, maybe I could be persuaded to buy this, but for now, it's a no. Dior also launched a contour stick. It's the Forever 24-Hour Skin Contour Stick, a sculpting and bronzing face stick. Now, I do not love a contour. I don't love like a gray, ashy shadow creation on my face. It just doesn't work the best for me. It doesn't look how I would like it to look on my skin. And looking at these are contours, not bronzers, although they do have one shade called Tan that does look like it's more of a bronze. It has that warmth to it. So it's overall just not a product that I need. And I'm so enjoying my Say bronzer still. This is the Say Dew Bronze Bronzer in the shade Swim. Now this is a liquid bronzer and it is more dewy, but I'm loving this one so much that I don't really feel the need to get one from Dior. Again, this is not a contour, this is a bronzer. And if you're like, but I really want a stick form, I'm loving my LYS. Now this is pigmented, y'all. So a little goes a long way, but it's also very blendable. I'm like, let me make sure I can get a better swatch right here. And I have the shade Courage. This is their No Limits bronzer. And I actually feel like this has a really beautiful, like, neutrally olive undertone to it. So right here, I don't feel like between these two and all the other cream bronzers I have, I don't really need this one from Dior. Let's talk about these two new launches from Prada because I am skipping out on both. For $50, we have the Prada Refine Blurring Extending Primer. And this primer is a blurring, pore minimizing, smooth, soft focus makeup ready primer. Okay, we got it. Now, a lot of times with these primers that come in this type of packaging that have this kind of like minty light green, the primer is tinted, and that is to counteract any redness that you may have on the skin. So a lot of times people will have redness on the skin and they'll confuse that for having a pink or red undertone, but your skin undertone is going to be kind of all over your body. And just because you may have rosacea or breakouts or just flushing on your face, it doesn't mean that you have a pink or red undertone. So to counteract that, I know that green primers can really help. Green kind of being the opposite of red, and then you can go in with makeup and your foundation doesn't have to be as high coverage because you already have that primer kind of doing some color correcting for you. So that's what I thought of when I initially saw this primer. I was like, oh, it's a green tinted primer. But then when I actually looked at it, it does look like there may be a hint of color, but it looks to be more of a clear primer. And when I read the description on Sephora, I'm really not seeing any claims that it's going to be like balancing out redness on the face. It says that it blurs pores for a refined look, mattifies to control shines, and primes and extends wear of your makeup. So I am definitely passing on this. I feel like I have enough primers that kind of give me the same claim. I am so much enjoying my One Size oil sucker primer for the mattifying look. Now this I would only recommend to the extremely oily like me, or use it in target areas where you're oily, but I'm really enjoying that. And I have so many blurring primers. I'm just like looking around me and I'm like, I have so many blurring primers. Like I don't need another one. I definitely don't need to spend $50 on another one. But let's talk about the Prada Beauty Reset Rebalancing Setting Powder. This one is $90. And I don't need this. This is a setting powder that extends the wear of your makeup, delivers an instant mattified soft focus effect on skin while controlling shine all day. And if you are into this, if you're like, you know what, no, I really like that light green powder, I really want that. NYX, who makes my favorite pressed setting powder, their HD powder, I love the shade Banana. I know they also sell like this kind of green color in that formula. So maybe if you're not sure, but you're like, oh, I'd really like to try and see how that kind of green does, definitely maybe check out that one from NYX that is $10, I think. It used to be 7 years ago, but I think it's risen up to 10 now. But even still, you could try, you could see if that's even something that you like in your makeup. And then if you feel like you want to invest the $90 in the Prada, you could definitely do that. I mean, you can do what you want to do. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just like throwing out suggestions, saying what I would do, and maybe I will pick up the green NYX powder and we can test it out together. Let me know if you would like me to do that. Let's talk about this massive rainbow palette from MAC that is $150. This is the 40 Shades of Pride eyeshadow vault. So MAC is donating portion of the proceeds of this palette to LGBTQIA plus charities, their Viva Glam charity, I believe. So you can definitely donate to that charity. But when it comes to the palette, like remember, you can always like make a donation on your own rather than just purchasing a product. It's awesome to donate by purchasing too. But if you're looking to maybe not spend $150, let me show you the Blends palette from Blend Bunny. This is a phenomenal rainbow palette, and this palette is under $40. It's under $40 regularly priced, and then if you use my affiliate code Heather on top of that, you get it for even less. And this, like, do you see this palette looks brand new? I know that you were looking at it and you're like, that looks like brand new. The tiniest tap of your brush, you get so much pigment. The tiniest tap, so you do not need much. I have used all of these shades multiple times on my eyes. I've had this palette for so long. I bought this palette because I fell in love with Blend Bunny, and I'm like, let me hop online and order this. I much prefer the formula of Blend Bunny over matte, so that would be my recommendation if you're looking for a huge rainbow palette. This one was pretty much an easy no for me. Let's talk about these Patrick Ta highlighter duos because I debated getting these so much. I had several shades picked out. I went back and forth, back and forth. This is the Major Glow Cream and Powder Light Reflecting highlighter duos from Patrick Ta. So you get a highlighter that's a cream version and you get a highlighter that's a powder version. And I have several of these blushes from Patrick Ta in this same format, the cream and the powder. I love them. I even bought the holiday palette that had like multiple blushes and the sparkly eye toppers, and I really like Patrick Ta. So I was thinking about buying these, but I'm like, okay, calm down. You don't need everything. You can't buy everything. And I thought about how much I love my Super Shock highlighters from ColourPop. So let me swatch these for you. This is the shade Flexitarian. And I know that these are more intense than the Patrick Ta, but these are kind of like, if you've never tried a Super Shock, you see that Flexitarian right there. They're blinding and intense, and I'm like, they're kind of like a powder cream in one. And I'm not saying they're the same effect as Patrick Ta. I'm just saying seeing these and trying to talk myself out of them made me think of how much I love my Super Shocks and kind of like shop my stash and pull them out. This is Flexitarian, and this is the new ColourPop Winks highlighter. Like, I just love those. And then I believe it was not too long after those came out, Made by Mitchell dropped the Comet case, and this is like cream highlighters, and I was like, I like that so much more. Like, it's more appealing to me. So even though I really love Patrick Ta, I've decided to hold off on those highlighters for now, and I'm realizing like I'm actually not wearing a highlighter today, so maybe we could like put one of these on while we talk. I could still be persuaded to buy one of those for Patrick Ta, and maybe when the like Sephora fall savings event rolls around, maybe one of those will make its way into my cart. But for right now, and since the launch, I've been able to resist temptation and not pick those up. Let's talk about this new palette from the brand Alter Ego. I would really like to try Alter Ego if they ever decide to put out their own palettes, like their own ideas, their own color stories, and it's not something that they're just copying another brand. This is their Daylight palette, and it is basically a direct copy of the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. Would love to try the brand if they come out with some original color stories, some things that are just their own, because I've heard great things about the formula. I already have the I Need a Nude palette, but if you are like me, you don't have the I Need a Nude palette though, and you want something similar, I would shop my stash for the 1111 palette from ColourPop. I feel like this has a very similar vibe. It's not warm or anything. It has a lot of these like straight up neutrally tones. It has some beautiful shimmers, some beautiful sparkle. We have some beautiful light shades, mid-tone shades, deeper shades. Like, there's variety here. There are some cool tone options and some straight up neutral options. So I think this is a really pretty alternative. If you want I Need a Nude, but you don't want to spend the Natasha Denona price point, but you want to make sure you're getting quality shadows, I really like this one. Hopefully I can try Alter Ego one day. Hopefully they will kind of like create some fun color stories, something like that. I'd really love to try the formula, and I would love to know if you have tried Alter Ego or if you feel like I do. You're just waiting for them to release something original. Definitely let me know. Pat McGrath released 2 new quads, and like Natasha Denona, I love Pat McGrath. I love her complexion products especially, and I really like a lot of her eyeshadows. So when I saw this launch, the Eye Enchantment quads, new quads, Nirvana Nectar and Opalescent Orchid quads, I decided to pass. The Neutrally quad, I feel like I have that a dozen times over. I don't feel like that would be adding something to my collection, but looking at the quad that has the white, the pink, the blue, the purple, and they're like shimmery and iridescent, I was tempted. I was definitely tempted, but I remembered I already have the Adept Cosmetics Seahorse palette. Now this is more expensive. It's not a quad. It's an independently owned brand, and you get tons of these pastel-y shimmer shades. And Pat McGrath is kind of known for her special shades, her special formulas. And I actually love Pat McGrath, but I do prefer Adept. I love these shimmers, and I have these shades in the Pat McGrath quad, but better in this Seahorse palette from Adept. So I'm like, I talked myself out of that one pretty easily. Initially, I'm like, ooh, I want that. I'm gonna get that. And then I was like, you know what, Heather, really? No, like you don't need it. So I would definitely use my Seahorse palette over that. And 2, I have this newer palette ColourPop sent me. This is their Winx palette. And if you want something that is maybe more at a drugstore price point, I forgot this shade is a little bit broken, so I had a little bit come out. That's totally okay. It's still fine. But if you want something that's pastel-y and you want some pastel shimmers, maybe this one from ColourPop could be for you, because look, we have that pretty like iridescent white shade, we have the kind of purpley blues and the shimmer formulas, we have that shimmery pink, but then in this we have variety. Like it's basically a pastel rainbow palette. So not only do you get those shades from Pat McGrath, but you also get like more, you know, more is more. And that green eyeshadow, I should have remembered that that shade was a little cracked on me and I wouldn't have this stuff floating all around. But this launch from Pat McGrath looks super pretty, and I totally get why people would be so into it. I know my friend Patty Alonso did a great video on the quads, so definitely check her out if you were curious and you want to hear somebody that is giving a great review and super trustworthy. Definitely check out her video. I will link it for you in the description box. I was so tempted by this powder foundation launch from Sydney Grace because they have so many shades, they offer samples, they have like such a great price point, and it's an independently owned brand, a woman-owned brand. I was going to be all over this, but I decided to skip out on this because Sydney Grace says that their warm shades have a red-pink undertone. That is not me. And their cool shades have a blue undertone. That is also not me. Even though a lot of brands don't carry olive undertones specifically, I can make products work for me. Of course I can. I usually just look for something that's like gold or yellow. But seeing the comments from Sydney Grace and not having like golden or yellow skin tone options that I could choose from, let alone olive, I just decided, let me skip this one and wait. But this is one that I like actually really want to try. And if you bought this release from Sydney Grace, please do let me know, because I want to hear your review, because as soon as they come out with more undertones, I'm purchasing. I skipped out on this new launch from Kylie Cosmetics. This is the Skin Tint Blurring Elixir. This is supposed to be a light medium coverage skin blurring, skin finish, second skin feel products, blah blah blah. And I was intrigued for a minute, but then I remembered my REM Sweetener foundation. Now the Kylie says it's a skin tint, but everything I was looking at was saying medium coverage, and that's exactly what I get with the REM. Kylie is claiming to have the kind of like skincare ingredients in there, and the REM Sweetener foundation does too. This is a medium coverage. I would say like it feels great on the skin. It is a natural matte finish, which is what I think when foundations claim to have a natural finish and they don't really describe it. That can mean like natural matte or natural glowy, but it's usually going to be somewhere around that, like not flat matte or not overly glowy. So the Sweetener foundation from REM I really like. This is really beautiful, and this shade is so great for me right here, but it's too light for me right now. So I love it so much that I bought a deeper shade that is maybe a bit too deep, but that I use just a tiny bit of, and I'll mix it in with that other shade and I'll be able to kind of custom create my shade. So this may not be exactly like the Kylie, but this is kind of what I used and reminded myself of how much I love this. It's great on my oily skin. It has skincare ingredients like niacinamide, things like that. So I was able to easily talk myself out of the Kylie. Let's talk about these new bronzers from By Terry, because just looking at the photo, don't these look gorgeous? Like they look so pretty. They look so luxe. They look like they need to be mine, honestly. They really do. They really do. But these are the Tea to Tan Sun Powders. Hydrating skincare infused bronzing powder with natural matte finish. It says it gives you hydration, soothing, protecting the skin for luminous, flawless complexion. I want them, but I'm not buying them because I can't get enough of my YSL All Hours Hyper Bronze. I cannot do it. I'm in the shade 3, which is so incredibly beautiful. Like I want to use this bronzer every day. I look forward to using this bronzer. I think about this bronzer. I know that's excessive, but I love this bronzer. It has that beautiful luxe packaging. It gives me everything that the By Terry would give me in look and feel, and I'm so happy with this one. Like I just enjoy it so much. YSL did send me this bronzer, but I would have purchased this myself. It was on my list. I saw my friend Karen Harris use this. I think she uses a shade of 4, but it looked great on her. So I'm like, I need that bronzer. I was convinced. And some of the things I showed you today and talked about, I purchased myself. Most of them, I believe. A few of them were sent to me, but all opinions are my own, of course. And I still think this By Terry bronzer looks like it may need to be mine, but I'm saying no. I'm saying strong for today, and I have been staying strong, and I'm proud of myself. Your girl is getting just a bit oily. Let me just kind of like brush on a little powder. I've had this makeup on a lot. It's been a bit of a long day, but let me know, what makeup releases are you saying no to? Because I need to say no to more things. We're coming up to Halloween and fall and all the fall releases, and I know there's so many things that I'm just not gonna be able to resist. So if you can help me like not buy stuff, definitely let me know. And if you love new makeup as much as I do, stay tuned because we're doing our weekly haul. Of course we are. We do them every single week where I love talking about new makeup. Check out some of my other videos. Hang around, talk makeup with me because I love talking makeup. I can and do all day.